Hello, this is Recipe for Friendship, and my name is Alevtina Madyarova. Today I invite you to meet the traditions and cultures of a nation whose main holiday is the day of the vernal equinox. Moreover, these people claim that they were at the origin of this holiday. Navruz Mubarak Bod. This is how they greet their guests during the Navruz holiday. So, what will we see in today's episode? We are going to taste and even learn how to cook real Tadjik pilaf. We will hear ancient national melodies. We will look at the bright outfits of the fashionable Tadjik women. However, as per our tradition, we will begin with a brief excursion into history. The history of the resettlement of the Tajiks in Kazakhstan, as well as many other nations, was associated with the grandiose plans of the Soviet government on the development of virgin lands. In the 20th and 30s of the 20th century, thousands of Tajik workers and their families were resettled to the Saryagash to develop the local irrigation farming. Currently, Tajik diaspora in Kazakhstan has about 45,000 people. In spite of the difficulties of assimilation, which are inevitable in the first phase of resettlement, the Tajiks fit into Kazakhstan, and as they say, they were most welcome. The similarity of Eastern culture and mentality allows us to easily find a common language. Well, the particular way of life, their lifestyle, music, and culture, this is what makes the Tajiks unique. They are different from their neighbors, but they keep their culture carefully. The Nauruz holiday is one of the brightest Eastern holidays, and we celebrate it with Azerbaijanis and Uzbeks, as well as Kazakhs, and even found out that Butter Week, which is celebrated by Orthodox Christians, can also be related back to this holiday. Today, we will talk about Nauruz in the Tajik style. Nauruz is translated from the Tajik Farsi, Dari, as New Day. Nauruz is one of the oldest holidays that is celebrated since the reign of King Jamshid. We, the Tajiks, believe that Nauruz is our holiday. Such games as Gush Tengir, it's like Kazakhsha Kuris, Kokpar, and Buzkashi. They are played during Nauruz. A lot of other national games are also played during the Nauruz season, which are held as the championships between villages. Happy Nauruz! Nauruz Meyrami Kutib Bolsin, Kut Birike Ashik Aspan. The Tajik language, or Zaboni Tadjiki, is also called Farsiya Tadjiki, or Tajik Farsi. Indeed, the Tajik and Farsi, as well as Persian, have a lot in common. The ancient Persian language was created around 11th century BC. And approximately in the 11th century AD, it became similar to modern Tajik, Afghan, and Iranian languages. Zaboni Tadjiki is nothing else than a subspecies. It was spoken by the greatest poets in their poems, and by new friends as well. The history of Nauruz celebration goes back to the pre-literate era of human history. Of course, it would be a mistake to consider this holiday as an Islamic holiday. However, in many Muslim countries, it gained the status of a national holiday. Turkey, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan set the 22nd of March, and the most importantly, whenever it is celebrated, it is associated with the first furrow, renewal, and the start of a new life. Contrary to popular belief, this holiday has nothing to do with Islamic traditions. It was born much earlier in pagan times. The day which marked the arrival of spring and renewal is celebrated in many Eastern countries: Turkey, Macedonia, Pakistan and Iran, Afghanistan, Central Asia, Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, and some parts of India. And that is not even the whole list. For example, according to Kazakh traditions, the holiday of the vernal equinox was celebrated as the great day of Ulus, the day of the people. Since ancient times, it was believed that the more generous table you set for your guests, the more generous new coming year will be for you. That is why people prepare a lot of treats and presents. They wear new clothes, and they give presents to their children. Nowruz means the new day in Persian, and there are a lot of variants in the pronunciation of the word. Around the 6th century BC, this religious holiday of Zoroastrianism gained its official status during the time of the Achaemenid Empire, which stretched from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea, from the Nile to the Caucasus region. Nowruz is a new holiday, a new day and a new year. The day of renewal, when night and day meets as equal, one of these two sacred nights of the year. Therefore, we are gathered here today to celebrate this holiday together with our Kazakh friends and with the Tadjik diaspora living in the Republic of Kazakhstan. As you know, the more generous dasturkhan on Nowruz, the better it will be in the coming year. Of course, every culture has its traditional dishes that are prepared especially for this day. For example, there are 7 dishes whose names begin with the letter S, and the same number of dishes whose names begin with the letter Sh on the Tadjik table. Thus we have 2 tables, Hafsin and Hafshin. The centerpiece of the table is a sumanak, or sumalak. This dish is made of flour, water, and germinated wheat grains. It is a symbol of the awakening of the earth. Sugar is not added. All the sweetness comes from the germinated grains, which are ground by hand. Old people say that the longer the sprouts of grain, the more and better will be the harvest in the new year. In the beginning, people read a prayer, asking God for such a sweet life as the sumanak. These grains are ground in a mortar and boiled in the cauldron for 10 to 12 hours, periodically adding flour. The whole process is quite time-consuming. It is necessary to stir the boiling into the cauldron dish constantly, so that all the women of the family are involved. Very often, the cooking turns into women gatherings with talking, singing, and dancing. Before you taste it, you need to make a wish, which will become true during the coming year, as they believe. And what is a holiday without pilaf? Some of the legends are based on the fact that this pilaf was brought into Asia by Alexander the Great, who borrowed the recipe from the Persians. Although in any region where walked this great commander, people can tell you stories about their ancestors, how they were the first people who treated this great Macedonian with pilaf, and their pilaf should be considered as the most correct and authentic one. Wherever it was, the first written mentions of pilaf are found in the annals of the 10th to 11th century AD. They tell that during their holidays, the memorial ceremonial people of the East prepared a dish of crisp rice with meat and spices. The Tadjik kitchen has more than 25 to 30 varieties of this dish. Pilaf with meatballs, pilaf with raisins, rice with fat tail, or pilaf with hasib, a special liver sausage. There are many additions to Tadjik pilaf. How does Tadjik pilaf differ from others? Basically, Tadjik pilaf doesn't differ much. It's just that every cook has his own style of cooking. And the word pilaf is a Tadjik word. They make artificial pools and fill it with water. It is called plov. And until the end of cooking, it is boiled in water. That's why it's called pilaf. Therefore, the word pilaf is in fact a Tadjik word. By the way, Tajiks also believe that the name of the dish is made up of the initial letters of the ingredients. P stands for pais, or onions. A stands for ice, or carrots. L stands for lahi, or meat. O is olio, or oil. V is vet, salt. O is ob, water. Sh is shali, or rice. It turns into palavosh and gradually was reduced to the word pilaf. And now what we have, these ingredients of the famous dish, are simple and well known. Rice, carrots, meat, and spices. Although the set of spices may vary according to each ashpaz, and some chefs and housewives cook without spices at all. For example, do you remember our Turkmen friend, Bibi? She prefers not to add anything extra in her pilaf, and its taste is able to please any guest. By the way, according to Tajik household traditions, women are busy with everyday cooking, and they cook pilaf. However, men always cook it for big holidays and events. In the East, as you know, it is a delicate matter. And do men cook for holidays? For holidays and for weddings, for anything that involves big gatherings of people. Basically, it's very hard work. Women also cook, but they cannot deal with such large numbers of guests. In the meantime, the female half of the house is busy with their chores. However, it is a great opportunity for us to learn more about the traditional Tajik dress and their own special types of needlework. A distinctive feature of the Tajik costume and dwelling is a bright and colorful palette of patterns. In just a few months before the holiday, the hostess begins to sew clothing for the family, so that no one would wear old clothes. Firstly, it relates to the children, so they are prepared and dressed up in advance. Kurtai Chakan is a wide female dress, decorated with handmade embroidery. Each holiday means a new chakan. The manufacturing of this dress requires at least a month. Cotton, satin, and silk are the most popular materials among Tajik fashionistas. Women wear dresses with isora pants. The dress of married women isn't different from the dress of an unmarried one. But just as in many other cultures, the sign of a married lady is the headdress. Even nowadays, married women shouldn't go out with their heads uncovered. And even if the citizen, yielding to globalization, neglected this rule, the countryside has everything all the same as before. The most favorite Tajik hat is a skull cap, or as it is called, toki. It is worn by older men and young people alike, both men and women. It is said that according to the shape and color and pattern, you can determine where the holder is from. So the northern Tajiks wear quadrangular skull caps. And in the eastern and southern parts of the country, the people wear rounded ones. The pattern of the hat is considered as a talisman. Many of the people of the East have a joke about the skull cap patterns, and they say that those patterns are embroidered so beautifully because the people want to please the one who looks at all of us from heaven. The biggest and most important holiday in almost every culture is nothing else but a wedding. Furthermore, we will talk about the Tajik wedding traditions. Many interesting traditions and beautiful ceremonies can be seen here in Kazakhstan, because a lot of ethnic groups and cultures and diasporas, rare by their diversity and unique in their combination, are represented in our country. With Recipe for Friendship, we have visited many holidays, and a lot of them wait for us ahead. It is well known that almost all nations of the world have the most interesting and sometimes unusual rituals associated with wedding ceremonies and the preparation for this event. The people in Tajikistan, as perhaps in the whole region of Central Asia, prepare for the wedding in advance. Often a boy and a girl whose parents are not averse to intermarrying, considered betrothed since childhood. Early marriages are also distributed among the Tajik people, especially in rural areas. Much attention is paid to the preparation of the bride's dowry, the distribution of the wedding expenses, and all kinds of convections. Usually, newlyweds live with the groom's parents, and the first meeting with the young mistress, her attitude from the very beginning is important. According to those first steps, she will be judged for many years after. The marriage motorcade is met by all the neighbors and relatives. They dance, music is played, and they make wishes. They don't hesitate to express their joy on the occasion of the creation of a new family. The newlyweds come to the groom's parents, but their room and its decoration is the concern of the bride's parents. According to their ancient traditions, her dowry should include everything that might be needed for everyday life for many years to come. That's why the bride brings chests full of goods, from clothing to bedding to dishes and furniture. The neighbors notice everything, and stinginess can become the grounds for gossip. Tajiks also have an important and already familiar to all of you ritual, the Kelin Salom, the bride's bowing. The bride bows lowly to anyone who congratulates the new woman in the house with her new status. It is worth remembering that marriage was the most important step in the life of a woman since ancient times. It changed the entire structure of her life once and for all. And this scheme was diverse not only among the Eastern nations. So the bride kindly and humbly bows to each guest, and the guests in turn do not come without a gift. Sometimes the joke about the lower the girl bows, the more gifts she receives does not seem to be a joke after all. But the most interesting things are yet to come. The older women meet the bride in the house. One of them, the grandmother or the mother of the groom, is given a special honorary role. Tajiks cherish their traditions no matter where they live. After the bride has entered the groom's house, her face is opened, and she has to show her housekeeping skills. They bring handmade surfa, bringing flour and oil, and pour some oil into the bride's hands so that she can mix the flour. And by doing that, she brings happiness and prosperity to her new house. According to that, her mother-in-law can determine whether she will be a good housewife or a good future mother. The young bride in her ceremonial garb kneads the dough in front of the amazed public. She used the food that was brought to her, and it is usually flour, oil, water, and a small amount of salt. The woman who meets her here is involved in the process, but she doesn't dominate. Her role is to show solidarity and to act friendly towards the new family member. This is how much oil she will pour to her flour, and she begins to knead. According to this, her housekeeping skills are determined. Flatbread, prepared during this ceremony, is a symbol of a rich life and prosperity of the new unit of society. And if you're lucky enough to taste the piece for the first flatbread, it means that you will be happy. That is why everyone tries to nip off a piece of it. Indeed, it seems that this is the most delicious bread in the world. Well, a lot of exotic dishes, unique dresses, incendiary dances, flavored treats, and most importantly, interesting people await us. There are about 130 nations and ethnicities living in our country, and this means that the recipe for friendship will go on. My name is Alevtina Madyarova. See you soon.